What's going on? Derek Johnson, Parker Ainsworth for a Locked On crossover. We got the Locked On Coogs, the Locked On Houston, Locked On KANSAS Jayhawks here, and we're at Big 12 Media Days. We're going to be breaking it down. We've got some interesting quotes from some of the different coaches, and we're going to get into all that on today's episode of Locked On.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Thanks for joining us on today's episode of Locked On Crossover here. We're here at Big 12 Media Days in Kansas City at the T-Mobile Center. And, oh boy, we've had some fun quotes, to say the least. We've learned some good things from the different teams that are here and at this event. But honestly, we were talking a lot, like, what should we talk about on this show? And one of the things... All right, let's continue on with this. I also want to dig into some of our takeaways from here, and let's get back into that conference conversation, the SEC versus the Big 12, because I have an interesting take on that as one of my big takeaways from this. This episode of the show is brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August of 2025. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but. From smooth handling to intuitive controls, they have all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, so you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail with Mazda because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Thanks for joining us on this Locked On crossover edition. Parker Ainsworth, Derek Johnson, Locked On Coogs, Locked On Jayhawks. If you are watching us on YouTube, and thanks for making us your first listen every day, by the way. You can subscribe on YouTube or anywhere you get your podcast. There is a light that's been going off and on us. We're not like under arrest or something like that. I promise that's the case.
Blue and red, though, a lot of...
Yeah. That's true. So some of our biggest takeaways from this, honestly, one of my biggest takeaways was how big AJ DeBonta is, which that was a little earlier. I don't know. Do you have any big takeaways from just being here or the event itself or just kind of the fun factor of being here, so to speak?
Well, it's been interesting. Whenever I see Kelvin in these kind of situations, I'm trying to pinch in who is Kelvin talking to, who is Kelvin, and like Kelvin had an interesting interaction, I thought, where he and I believe it's Jensen, the new coach at Utah, were clearly, and I don't know the full background story, but there was clearly a mutual respect there. That was like, oh, that's the new guy on the block. How you've already built that up, right? Obviously, super respectful of self and Scott Drew at Baylor and all the different guys that he knows, but was very quick to like go reach out and say, hey, how you doing, et cetera, with Jensen. I was like, okay, well, clearly there's something there. Maybe Jensen's a better coach than I have an understanding of or has something going on there, right? You mentioned the size of guys. I also think it's been interesting to see, bluntly, which guys people bring, right?
Yeah.
Like, Houston's under Sampson typically brought upperclassmen. Several programs brought their star freshmen. Houston left those guys at home. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what that means about, get the guys that, BYU brings in AJ DeBonta because he is the big meal ticket in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. But does that say something about the upperclassmen that we're not really thinking about? What are we putting together there when we see it happen? Or is he just that good? He could just be that good. He could just, Kansas has their own star freshman. What have you picked up on the day as the days unfolded with a lot of basketball conversation? It's been all day.
Yeah, honestly, like going back to the conference, I don't know, like is it the best conference? That kind of conversation, and you heard Scott Drew up there mentioning, I forget what the number was, 8 of the last 12 years or whatever on Ken Pom, like being the number one league or something like that. And I just thinking more about this because I do think you can make the argument that, the SEC had a better season last year than the Big 12 did. But I go back to this, and it's like, I think of this from a football perspective, right? The Big 10 had a better football season in 2024 than the SEC did, right?
Maybe 2023 as well.
Yeah, maybe. And who knows, maybe even this year, right? Because the SEC has a lot of good teams, but, anyway, point being, yet you won't hear SEC fans relent the fact that they don't have the best conference. Because they'll say, okay, I get it, maybe you were better last year, but over the longevity, over the long haul, it's been us, and look at all these. So then why does it work the other way in basketball? Why does 1 year of saying, hey, we have the better basketball conference, when the Big 12 has been the better basketball conference for the 8 previous years before that, why does that all of a sudden mean that the Big 12 no longer is the best basketball conference? Well, why is it different for the two squads? That's stupid to me.
Interestingly, too, in basketball versus football, the exodus of Texas and Oklahoma did not hurt it in basketball the same way it did in football.
Heck, maybe it even helped because they were able to add Houston.
Bring it in, and BYU and AJ DeMonza and Arizona and like all these different places, right? And so maybe that's part of it as well. It's an interesting take because we do compare the two sports a lot, but it's a very opposite reaction.
Yes, because again, the SEC, it's like, oh, Big Ten might have had a better year, but overall the long haul. But then it's like, oh, one good year of basketball, and boom, all of a sudden it's a better conference. I don't know. Just a thought, and I do think we are going to get the full, I don't want to say resurgence, because again, I think the Big 12 is still has been at the top even last year, where even if you want to make that argument, but it's like, you look at all those schools, I do think Arizona is good enough to make a Final Four, win a national title. I do think Baylor is going to be a team that's going to surprise some people and could be, kind of a second weekend team. Iowa State's been just really tough year in and year out. I mean, if Jerome Tang is right about having all those things, they're a national title contender. Kansas, I think, is going to be back in a real way. I think they're going to be a top 10 team this year. Houston, number one team in the country, right? You go on and on. I think West Virginia could be an NCAA tournament team. Texas Tech's going to be a national title contender. BYU, I think, can be a national title contender. So you go on and on and on down the list. I am a believer in the Big 12 this year. I know we're here at Big 12 Media Days, drink the Big 12 Kool-Aid, whatever, but I don't know. I truly do believe it, and I do think that when you look at, Bruce Pearl now leaving Auburn, when you look at some of the players leaving the SEC from last year to this year, I think we're going to be fully back this year into being the Big 12's the best conference.
Well, and I also think it's worth pointing out, Florida wins national title, so that's their SEC's, one of their ribbons or feathers in their cap. But Tech had them on the ropes, Houston had them on the ropes, and as much as it hurts to admit, both those teams probably should have won those games. Right, and if either one of those games goes differently, we can't even give them last year.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, just honestly, if Tech could beat Florida in the Elite Eight, the Big 12 would have had half the Final Four and a likely
Who knows? What if Tech beats Auburn, and then what if you get Tech Houston
a Big 12 title? Yeah, right? I mean, God, that would have actually that would have been a little crazy. Crazy conference, and it's going to be a big year for the conference, a lot of fun. I'm sure you're previewing all the way up until November with the way things are going to the Jayhawks, right? That's right.
And this Friday, actually, KU has an exhibition game with Louisville, so that's certainly making things more fun. So that's going to do it for this little crossover episode. Parker, where can you check out all your work?
Locked on Coogs, everywhere you get your podcast, free and available on all platforms. Mention exhibitions. Houston's got Mississippi, speaking of SEC Big 12, Mississippi State this weekend, an exhibition, as well as a big football game with Arizona State. We've got to break down more of, too. That San Levitt guy is good. We'll talk about it, I promise. Go check out Locked on Coogs.
A big week for us, too. KU, K-State, and obviously the exhibition versus Louisville on the road. So we'll be breaking that down as well. Locked on Jayhawks. He's Parker. I'm Derek. See you next time with another Locked on crossover or one of those two episodes. Bye.